Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show. My name is Daryl Grove and I'm joined by the man who's secretly a grizzled Italian centre-back. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
I mean, my hair's getting shorter and the beard's getting longer.
Exactly.
It does seem to correspond.
I feel like you could have some Barzagli off-the-line clearances.
Yes. I am not like 6'4" and I don't weigh 120 pounds, which seems to be the way most of those guys are built. So I don't know if I can pull that one off either.
So we're going to talk Spurs-Juve. It finished in a Juve victory. They are through to the Champions League quarterfinals. But for good and for bad, it was really all about sort of old Italian defenders, right? You got Buffon in goal, which is the ultimate defender. Chiellini and Barzagli both heavily involved in this win for Juve.
Yep. And I think if you, like a year from now, if you're going back and thinking of like the image that stands out from this game, it's probably going to be the Chiellini Buffon like head-to-head screaming at each other when
in victory,
Chiellini
right?
made the big play. Yeah.
A wonderful scream at each other. Because normally goalkeepers screaming at defenders, it's for things they've done wrong, not things they've done right.
Yes.
That's how great Buffon is.
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good.
Okay, so to this game.
Yeah.
What happened? Because it was a weird old game, wasn't it? Like we watched it in the studio, but then we sort of rewatch a lot to try and figure out what has happened here. And I felt like we kept asking each other, what has happened here? It took a while.
It really
took a while to get there.
It did, because it was one where even when we went back and watched all the goals and kind of really broke them down, like there's a few things that went wrong, but usually there's one like, oh, they did that and that guy didn't see this and then that led to that. And here it was sort of like, well, that could have happened and that might have gone wrong.
Dele Alli's toe was just a little bit longer.
I mean, yeah, that is kind of where we are.
So maybe should we start? So if people don't know, it finished 2-1 to Juve. Shall we start with sort of the tactical setup and sort of how each team approached it? Because I would say Juve kind of got it wrong to start with, but Allegri made a switch which really changed this game. Yeah. Whereas Pochettino, I feel like he will go back and sort of be like, I wish I committed more to that. I wish I decided on a thing that I was going to do.
He did say afterwards that like it's not a failure. He chooses to be a dreamer and he chooses to see this as continued growth. But I think if pressed, he would probably say, yeah, we weren't aiming to lose this game, would be my guess. And so to your point, Spurs came out in the kind of what we expected, the 4-2-3-1.
Yep.
Whereas Juventus, we think it was almost like a 4-4-2 diamond, like a very like flat, stretched out diamond.
I think here's the best way to look at it. It was a 4-4-2 diamond with, say, Dybala and Higuain as the strikers, but then Dybala goes wandering all over the place, as is his want, right? But then the back four is the interesting part for Juve. You had Barzagli, who is 36-year-old centre-back, playing right back. And then you had Alexandro playing left back, which made that back four look super imbalanced, right? Because Alexandro would just go charging down the left. He was like a left wing back almost.
we routinely thought that maybe they were actually in a back three and that Douglas Costa was the other, like the right wing back or something. We were definitely wrong.
Alexandro was just the left back who had license to go forward, and Barzagli was like the right back who didn't have a driving license, so he had to stay home.
He rejected that license, yes.
So he stayed home. And then Spurs, in response, on the plus side, Spurs were sort of like, all right, Barzagli, all right, Juve, you're going to put this 36-year-old centre-back at right back? We've got Heung-min Son. Yeah. We're going to send him at you. And he got roasted. He got roasted, Barzagli did.
Well, I think this is where Allegri got it wrong, at least in the beginning, because, I mean, we've been talking in the past weeks, and I'm sure Spurs fans have been talking about it all season, that Son is such an incredibly important player for Tottenham, because coming down that left flank for them, he is consistently a problem, consistently a threat.
It used to be a secret, right? It used to be the Harry Kane team, and maybe Christian Eriksen and maybe Dele Alli, and everyone was not noticing Son. I think in the last few months, we've all been noticing Son.
Yes. And so my guess is that Allegri thought, okay, I'm going to put Barzagli out there. He's a resolute defender. He will lock down that channel. He won't do much attacking.
And he won't go forward and leave a hole behind him.
Exactly, but he'll be able to contain. And even when they were in 1v1 situations, Son caused problems. Barzagli really struggled to handle his pace, his technical ability, his creativity, and his shooting ability.
He didn't even need that much creative technical ability, right? It was really just Son would like fake one way and accelerate the other way, and he would leave Barzagli behind, and then he'd be free to have a shot or get a cross in. It was really bad for a good while there.
It was, and then on top of that, as we talked about with that midfield diamond, you basically had Pjanic sitting and Khedira ahead of him, but then you'd have Khedira kind of pushing into attack to try to create some pressure. But that led to everybody being kind of stretched out, and that's exactly where Tottenham want you. They either want you with way too high of a line that they can try to break with pace, or they want you stretched out. That gives them space and passing options, and that's kind of what they got in the first half.
So it feels like we've organically decided to do this chronologically. So let's start with Spurs goal. Spurs go 1-0 up, and it really feels like almost game over, right? When Son, he's on such a great run of form that he can miss kick a ball, kick it with the wrong foot, and that turns out to be the right decision.
Kind of.
That's how the goal happens.
Because I do think if you rewatch this, basically the ball comes in from Trippier.
He was aiming for Christian Eriksen. I'm certain. You're not so certain.
I choose to give him the benefit of the doubt. But maybe. Eriksen's there, but he can't quite get on the end of it, but instead it goes to Son. Son mishits it. He hits it with his right foot. I think hits it into his own left foot, and it weirdly spins into the back of the net. But I think Chiellini and Buffon were sort of in decent enough position that I think one of them, if he had just hit it with the instep, one of them probably blocks it or gets a hand to it. Ideally, that would be Buffon if you're a Juventus fan, not Chiellini. But I think either way, it maybe doesn't go in. But because of that weird spin trajectory, I think neither one can adjust, and it ends up going in.
I would say, if you get really weird and nerdy for a second, that it's kind of like you got to know the rules to break the rules. That's what Son would argue. This is like his Charlie Kaufman script. Is what this is. Okay. You've got to know the rules to break the rules. Kick it with your wrong foot. That's the only way to fool Chiellini and Buffon, who know how to cover all the normal angles.
He crossed the stream, is what we're getting at here.
Yes, you got to cross the streams. Yeah. That's it. He crossed the streams. He crossed his feet.
There we go. Perfect. But that was uncharacteristically.
And Buffon is obviously Zool.
Kind of immortal, always there. Really causes problems. I'm with that. But it was uncharacteristic of Juventus to kind of get pulled apart the way they did for that goal, and you could see it in the way that they were very much scrambling. You didn't see them do that, especially in the second half. There was not nearly as much scrambling, even when Tottenham were chasing and putting on that pressure. Juve seemed very collected, but in those opening minutes and in the lead up to this goal, it felt like they were all over the park and still hadn't really adjusted.
Okay, but then Allegri switches it up
with
a simple but really game-changing substitution.
Yeah.
He takes Mehdi Benatia off, right? Yep. Mehdi Benatia was the other centre-back alongside Chiellini. They slide Barzagli out from his torture spot, right back into a safe space at centre-back, and put Stefan Lichtsteiner in that right-back spot. And if you've watched soccer for a few years, you will know about Stefan Lichtsteiner, a Swiss fullback who loves to get forward. He was all about it as soon as he got on, right? So suddenly, Juve have width on both sides. They have pace. Son has to worry about someone going the other way, which is much harder. Yeah,
and Son also has to worry about getting stomped on and punched and thrown around. There was a lot.
We didn't mention that. It did seem like one of the approaches to Son was to step on him, which was what Barzagli did. And I believe, didn't you catch Lichtsteiner?
Give him a little shot to the kidney.
I think in the kidney, right? Yeah, punching the kidneys and got away with it
right before one of the goals. I think.
Is there any chance that he'll sort of hear about that from some sort of video review panel?
I don't think so, because the way he reacted was sort of like, "Oh, I didn't mean to do that," and he does stop play, so maybe it was accidental. But it looks to me like that, like the outside of his right hand makes contact pretty aggressively.
It could have been the beginning of a sprint.
Yeah.
Or it could have been just a shot to the kidneys.
I'm going to say it was more likely a shot to the kidneys.
But it's hard to prove, is what you're saying. It's hard to prove.
Yes. But to your point, so Lichtsteiner comes in, and then you also have Kwadwo Asamoah come in 1 minute before Lichtsteiner.
Big Asamoah fan here. Wish he'd played more over the past few years for any team he was on.
Yeah. Comes in for Matuidi, who had been on the left side of that diamond.
And Matuidi really is more a sort of hard-working, disciplined player. Asamoah is really more sort of an impact player, I would say.
And I think with those substitutions, you're absolutely right. Lichtsteiner is going to be more aggressive getting forward. He's going to try to contribute. Obviously, he does for the first goal.
Well, we'll talk about that.
We will. But it's also that I think Juve drop into a 4-2-3-1. And it's
so Asamoah's like the left winger at that point.
And it's you have Khedira sitting now with Pjanic, and you have a little bit more control in the middle. They're able to establish possession a bit more, and they're able to kind of cut down the amount of time that Tottenham have on the ball in the middle of the park to find that space in the channels. And because they don't have that, it's more of a rushed pass.
And I would say Khedira getting out of the way and coming a bit deeper, I would argue gives Dybala more space to work in, because he's not so clogged with teammates.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm with you. And then I think, and his movement, again, we'll get to it in a little bit, is also a huge problem for Tottenham, because now they're not sure, do I track, do I step, do I mark, do I press? And because of that uncertainty, Juventus are able to thrive.
So let's talk about Juve's equaliser. It's Gonzalo Higuain outside of his foot finish, but it comes down that right side.
It does. And I want to say, if you haven't seen this game, the reason why we are praising...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. The reason why we're praising Max Allegri and what Juventus did is because, as we said, Asamoah comes on in the 60th minute. By the 67th minute, when there's another change in there, 2 goals have happened. So in 7 minutes after those 2 changes, things go right for Juve.
Literal game changer.
Yep. Yes. So, to the first goal, shall we?
To the
equaliser.
So, I see Dybala doing his wandering around thing over on the right, Juve's right wing, overloading that side. I see Lichtsteiner bombing down the right, having the extra overload. I see, I can't remember why it's happened, but Son has been pulled central. Dele Alli is doing his best to fill in on the left. So there's a real overload down there. It ends up with a ball to Lichtsteiner up against Ben Davies, and it's really no match because Lichtsteiner is easily able to get that cross in. I was not impressed with Ben Davies in this game.
I think that's fair. And this is where we were talking about if Dele Alli had like just a half-inch longer toe, because he goes for the slide on the ball in and doesn't quite get to it, and that's what leads to, I think, Dybala getting it, then Dybala plays it wide to Lichtsteiner, Lichtsteiner plays that ball back in. I get what you mean with Ben Davies, and I didn't at first because it felt like...
We had a sort of in-studio disagreement on whether Davies should have been able to block this cross. Right?
And I think we were actually both right, although you were probably more right, in the sense that Dybala has the ball. He's kind of more inside.
I don't even need the explanation. I just like being right.
Well, listeners might more like right. it. But Dybala has the ball more inside. Lichtsteiner's coming down Juventus' right-hand side, and Davies kind of has to deal with both of them.
He's trying to split the difference between the two. Yeah.
I think, and I understand that. I think where you are right, though, is that then that ball goes wide to Lichtsteiner, and he takes a touch and plays that ball in. And Davies just sort of does that, like, I'm just going to contain and make it a little bit difficult for him to cross that ball in because he's got to try to get it around me or over my foot or whatever.
Here's what he's doing.
You're not actually getting to him.
He's hoping that he's closing enough space that Lichtsteiner can't cross, and he's going to stand him up, and then he'll be allowed to sort of encroach and sort of get in and make it harder for him. I think Lichtsteiner realises that and just thinks, he's almost like it's that old pro thing of just knowing, this is my best opportunity to cross. Like, you can tell an experienced player, they just know when the time is right.
You do. And so... I think a lot of players on both sides of the ball know that cross is coming in and all kind of get into the right positions. The problem is that ball goes into Sami Khedira. Khedira gets a header to it, obviously not on frame, but he kind of redirects it. And I think everybody stops to watch him redirect the ball, except for Gonzalo Higuain, who has drifted away from Eric Dyer, who was marking him, but obviously stopped to watch Khedira head the ball for some reason.
The way I saw it, Dyer was with him until Khedira heads the ball. Yeah. And I think he's just worried about what Khedira's doing and stops, but Higuain doesn't stop, which is pretty much what you just said, right?
Yep.
Higuain is... It looks like he could be in an offside position.
Except...
Unless you pan out and you
Ben
see
Davies.
Ben Davies is still down at the end line playing everybody onside.
And that is where that sort of lack of pressure, when you're just standing off, if you're running with them to the end line, you are very much playing everybody else on side of the result.
You
and
ruin
if you
it
don't
for
run
everybody
back out,
in the middle, right?
Yeah, it's a problem. And that's exactly what it is. And Higuain is there finishing with the outside of his foot. And I think you pointed out from a range and an immediacy that doesn't allow for thought.
Yeah, this is my Higuain theory, right? Higuain is one of the best in the world if you don't give him time to think. His instincts are gold, right? Which is spelled G-O-A-L-D.
Yeah.
His immediate reaction to this like ball just come flying at him is to use the outside of his foot to redirect it past Hugo Lloris. Yep. You give him a penalty kick, he's got too long to think about it. You give him a one-on-one in the World Cup, he's got too long to think about it. But like this quick reaction, he's got it down.
I think Alvaro Morata is in that team as well.
Yes.
The overthinker, instinctual player is maybe a little bit better. Yes.
All right, so at this point, it's 1-1 on the night. It's 3-3 on aggregate. It is still Spurs' game, right? They're ahead on away goals. So it's the second Juve goal that is the killer for Tottenham Hotspur.
It is. And this is where Daryl and I, before we started recording, had a conversation about, is Champions League experience a thing? Does that really matter? And there's all this drama about like how hard it is to win away and how much crazy pressure and intensity there is in a Champions League knockout round game. And that is obviously a thing. But the question is like, how important is having experience and having previous experience dealing with that? How important is that? And I think these 3 minutes show that difference. Because Juve, when they're chasing, you still didn't see them when they were 1-0 down. You didn't see them just forcing shots and forcing crosses and just really playing with desperation. And I think Tottenham, especially once it's 2-1 Juve, they're definitely doing that. But even in these few minutes, there is definitely oh no, like this could go wrong. We can't make any mistakes. Yep. And once you start thinking, let's not make any mistakes, you're going to start making mistakes because you're no longer trying to play your game. You're trying not to play the wrong game.
I'll give you a perfect example. Okay, so for this second goal, it's Dybala scores it. But a big thing for me that happens in the build-up is Eric Dyer is intent on tracking Dybala.
Yep.
Right? So Spurs, part of their defensive strength is you have Eric Dyer alongside Dembele, right? So you've got two defensive midfielders close to each other. There's no way to pass a ball through the middle of those guys, right? But Dybala makes this run out to the wing. Dyer's so intent on tracking him, won't pass him off to Trippier, goes with him. Doing that opens a massive gap through the middle. That's the gap through which Chiellini eventually plays the ball into Gonzalo Higuain's feet. That is the sort of panic and do the right thing but do it too much, and therefore you open up a space for your opposition to play through.
But I would say it was almost like as though like Eric Dyer had like a 3-second memory or something, because it starts with Dybala drifts into a place where there are 4 Spurs players and Paulo Dybala is in the middle of them. He receives the ball and drops it back. Then he makes that run and Eric Dyer's like, oh right, you're not supposed to have any time on the ball. I'll track him. And he does that. And then he slowly drifts away from him again, and then Dybala's open again.
Yep.
And it felt like that, again, that was that sort of nerves, lack of experience. It's like, oh, I tracked him that time. Okay, now I'm good. And it's like, no, you're supposed to stay with him and just keep an eye on him and not let him run through and score the winning goal.
It's like the equivalent of don't think of a blue car, right?
I thought of a red car.
Don't make a mistake. If you're thinking don't make a mistake, as you said, you're going to make a mistake because you're too self-conscious. Bobby Warshaw would say, you're not in the flow. You're not in the zone.
Yeah. And one person who is definitely not in the zone
would
be Ben Davies again. And I think, again, this is a little bit of panic. Tottenham fans, I'm sorry, I know this isn't fun to listen to, but I think it's the reality is that once you are sort of like, I don't want to be the one at fault, you can see Ben Davies. I think he's tracking Douglas Costa. I can't quite remember who it is. Maybe it's Asamoah. But either way, you can see him looking behind him and he sees somebody back there and he's like, oh, I better drop off and make sure I've got my bases covered. But because he does that, he's keeping everyone on the side by a good, 5-6 yards?
Yep.
And that is why then you have all the Tottenham players stop when that ball comes in.
I'm pretty certain it's Douglas Costa because he's on the right.
There you go.
And Davies is on the left.
But that really is what happens, is that Higuain gets that ball in the middle and is able to cut back and then play Dybala in. And you have Kieran Trippier just stop and put his hand in the air because he's sure. And then I think he realizes,
For me, this is like a pet peeve, but that's the worst part of all of this for me, because that assistant referee is going to give offside or is not going to give offside. Your arm in the air is going to make maybe 1% difference. You chasing Dybala and maybe tackling him is going to make a lot more difference.
Yeah.
So that's what you should have gone with, Kieran Trippier, is chasing the player with the ball who's going through one-on-one with Hugo Lloris. How about that?
And I know it's really, really difficult, if not impossible, but like there's something to the idea that if you stop and put your hand in the air and you don't get the call, I do think that you then feel slightly aggrieved and you're focused on the injustice as opposed to making up for it. And you can see that in Trippier. He doesn't then sprint, really. It's sort of like a 70%, 60% jog run to pursue the ball. And I have to believe part of that is like, no, he was definitely offside. This is so not fair. And he's not fully focused on like, oh, I might still be able to make a play.
This will all get sorted out in a minute.
Yeah. And in the end it does, in the sense that Dybala puts it in the back of the net and it's 2-1.
Doesn't he sort of, I think Dybala versus Lloris, he gives the eyes or the hips, I'm not sure what it is, but persuades Lloris that he's going bottom left corner. As soon as Lloris dives, he goes top right corner. Yeah, it's a really good finish from Dybala.
And it's not quite as horrible as a Panenka, but it is that sort of, you can see Lloris going over as Dybala is hitting it, and you can see that half second of like, oh, I'm not getting this. There's no chance I'm getting on the end of this one.
What follows is Spurs' desperation, which includes bringing on Llorente to just aim crosses at the big man, and Juve doing sort of a classic 20 minutes of defending. Right? I mean, everybody behind the ball. They even take off Higuain for Sturaro. Yeah. Or didn't you notice after Higuain plays the ball to Dybala for the assist, he essentially just hands on knees, and just I'm done.
He's played his game.
Yeah,
he's good. Yeah, and you bring him up, but then it is that Juve discipline that we know, that we've seen before, and that's the thing. And this is again where I do think there is that element of Champions League experience matters. That Juve, you didn't see them just lumping crosses into the box and hoping something came off. You didn't see people really shooting with desperation from distance. You saw them trying to work it around. That second goal comes from like a 10 or 12 pass sequence after Spurs just kicked the ball long. Juve, and a lot of it is playing around the defense. It is not get the ball forward and move it quickly and we're panicking. It's sort of like, let's pick our spots, let's create space. Now let's occupy that space. Now let's create more space. Like that's how they managed to create that goal. Whereas Tottenham, it felt like even when they were possessing in Juve's defensive third, it was still a lot of
threat, was there?
Let's just move the ball, and something will eventually happen.
Ben Davies will put in a not very good cross.
And then that,
And Llorente will shoot into a crowd that he has no chance of getting the ball
and then
through.
Chase down a ball and run into Christian Eriksen and almost put the ball out of bounds. That wasn't great.
It was not sort of a confident attempt to score in those final 10 minutes,
But it was a very entertaining and captivating game.
It was fun to watch, especially as a neutral, right? I was actually kind of rooting for Spurs because of all the English players. I really want to see Harry Kane, Dele Alli go deep in a tournament. But it's not to be.
It's not to be.
Not till the summer, anyway.
But I found it especially interesting just because I heard you. Just because it's rare. I'm not trying to say this to sound like arrogant or toot our own horn or anything, but like it's rare that we watch a game and kind of end and we're like, what just happened? And we really, it was difficult to kind of get some of the patterns down, and then going back and rewatching definitely helped with some of it. But it was still like, ooh, that could have gone either way on that goal. It just didn't go Spurs' way on the night.
Okay. It did go FC Basel's way on
Ish.
the night. Kind of. Enough for them to celebrate in front of their fans. Like, hey, we did good, right? But they lost heavily on aggregate.
There is that.
Phil Foden got a good run out, though, so that's good.
He did.
As did Brahim Diaz. So Guardiola did a hashtag play your kids in the second leg of the Champions League.
There we go.
I like it.
I like it too.
Hashtag play your Gundogan because he's enjoyable to watch. And Jesus back with a goal. That's bad news for anyone who thought they maybe were catching Man City in the title race.
In the 8th minute, or anybody who thought that Josh Sargent was going to overtake him. Dale Grove.
There's still a couple of years. There's still a couple of years to go. All right. We've got some CONCACAF to talk about.
We do.
But first, we have a sponsor.
We do.
Today's sponsor is a returning favourite. It is awaydaysfootball.com. Awaydaysfootball.com. It is a small, independent soccer clothing brand based out of Boston. But you may know them better as the, not makers, the deliverers
providers,
and choosers of the famous mystery kit.
Yes.
So if you go... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's become a thing where I don't know if it's Scouting Network or mystery kits anymore, because I'll see these tweets come through of like, they're currently 9th in the Finnish 2nd division. And I'm like, what is happening? Who is over there? And it's Away Days, not the Scouting Network.
Oh, we need to one day match up which mystery kits have been sent out with players that are... I believe... Does Hamid play for... Bill Hamid, does he play for Midtjylland or Noordjylland? I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot. You don't know
Midtjylland,
either.
I think.
Midtjylland? I believe Midtjylland was one of the mystery kits.
Okay.
But it wasn't a goalkeeper kit that was sent out.
And we did have Sheffield United when CCV was there.
Yes, that was it. That was the best
no
one.
Longer there.
That's no longer there. But there'll be a future match.
Tel Aviv.
Right? So yeah, if you do buy a mystery kit at awaydaysfootball.com, it's $25 and it's going to be a soccer jersey from any time and anywhere in the world.
Any time and anywhere.
It's true though, right? It could be second division.
It's going to be wool lace-ups from the 1880s.
Yes, I mean, that would be...
Yeah.
Away Days Football does have a time machine, but they're using the technology just for soccer jerseys.
For good, yeah.
I think it's a good use of it.
Yeah,
right?
I think so, yeah.
If you can get a sports almanac, I say do it.
You beat me to the Biff joke. I was literally about to make that joke. Well played, sir. Well played, sir.
So it's not just mystery kits. Away Days Football also are a soccer clothing brand, T-shirts, beanies, hoodies with that nice logo that Taylor tells me is a soccer ball and the globe.
Yep.
And I agree with him. It's a very nice logo.
I'm glad you agree, my friend. So if you want to get any of that equipment, or if you want to look into the mystery kit, you can do so. And you can get 15% off by using the promo code TSS.
So TSS for 15% off at awaydaysfootball.com. The link, of course, will be in the show notes. We encourage you to click it and check out what they have to offer. Take a gamble on a mystery kit. See what you get.
You never know what you're going to get, because if you gamble and maybe play a little bit more attacking and have an amazing goalkeeper, maybe you'll get a 2-0 win away on the road in the CONCACAF Champions League.
So this was a big result, right? Twitter was alive with Tijuana versus Red Bulls last night in the CONCACAF Champions League. Red Bulls won 2-0 goals, both goals from Bradley Wright Phillips, both really nice goals. But the man of the moment...
One really nice goal.
And one good goal.
One predatory instance. Yeah.
The man of the moment was, of course, Luis Robles. I actually don't know the final tally on how many saves, but it was in the 10 to 15 range.
I mean, I think it
was in the Tim Howard zone.
I think it was 14 or 15 on target, and he saved most of those.
So if it's 15, he beats Tim Howard's World Cup record.
Yes.
But regardless of the number... Based on, so I saw the last 30 minutes live, and I've seen the highlights. I've seen all the saves, I believe. These are better quality saves than Tim Howard versus Belgium.
I would say so, or at the very least, there are still like some
more variety,
but more like backbreakers is what I would like. That is a thing, that if you're the team that has all the possession, is getting all these shots, and that goalkeeper is just denying you over and over and over again. There are those moments when you're just like, nothing. It's just not going to happen.
It's not my day.
And once you have that thought, it's really difficult to get out of that one and stop feeling like, oh man, this just isn't going to be our night.
It's like the trying not to make a mistake thing, right? Once you believe that this keeper is unbeatable, you make that keeper unbeatable.
Yeah,
because that keeper is Luis Robles.
Because then when you're shooting, you're not thinking like, oh, I'm putting this exactly where I want. You're thinking, oh man, I hope he doesn't save this. And that is not the way to be thinking when you're trying to score goals.
And so for anyone who feels it's blasphemy to doubt the Tim Howard magic, which obviously we don't, it was a wonderful goalkeeping performance. But if you watch that US-Belgium game, as I did, you'll notice that a lot of it's the way the US defense is designed is Belgium sort of always came in at these weird angles, and Howard's job was like to just come out, be big, make the save. So it's a lot of a similar save over and over again. I'm not saying it's easy, but when you watch this Robles performance, it's a lot of sort of off his line to beat someone in the air. It's sort of a diving save to tip it over at the top right corner. There's a bit of everything, right? There's a dive and a catch.
Yeah, because even the two that you just described, he does those a couple different ways. Because one time it's like diving backwards to get on the end of a header. One time it's diving backwards to get on the end of a deflection and put both of those over for corners. The one that you were talking about, I think Tim Parker accidentally gets his head to it.
Yes.
And Robles, in less than half a second, recognizes with the velocity this ball is coming at me, there's no way I'm catching this at best. I'm going to hold on to it and run outside of the 18. So he does
would not be good.
parry straight up in the air,
Yep.
like probably 20, 30 yards up in the air, and that allows him the time to then get repositioned, and
really
that ball
smart
is no longer a threat.
I did see the Cooligans tweet out that just a few days after Luis Robles met the Cooligans and went on their podcast, he puts in the performance of his life.
Yeah, I credit Christian. Yeah.
You do. I credit Alexis.
Yeah, well, Christian probably did it.
Luis Robles credits years of hard work.
That's probably it.
And not too much pizza.
Also that.
So we did want to have a good long look at this game. But I've got to say, Go 90 let us down.
It did.
Oh, it's been a weird relationship we have with Go 90, right? That's the English language stream. It was streamed perfectly last night. No glitches, so there was nothing to complain about. And then there's an archive of all the games. For some reason, between last night and today, it disappeared from the archive, so we couldn't watch the whole game again. Go 90 lost it somewhere. It's like a library that it fell down the back of the shelf.
I feel like there's a decent chance that it's there now. Now that
we've said it.
Now that we've said it.
It was just in the 3-hour window that we wanted to watch it. It disappeared. Yeah.
I think so.
So we can't offer analysis of Tyler Adams' performance, which is honestly what I really wanted to do. Maybe we'll be able to do that for the second leg, which is next Tuesday.
Other than we can say that Tijuana did have a goal disallowed. It should have been given, and it should have been given because Tyler Adams kept them onside. It
looked to me Tyler Adams kept the player who eventually put the ball in the net onside. So they were probably aggrieved at not being given that goal. Maybe that was the backbreaker more than the Robles save.
But this is why we try not to base too much of our in-depth review on highlights, because we don't know if Tyler Adams had just made a big defensive play and was trying to get back into position.
He could have been rescuing a puppy.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, he probably was.
Yeah, he probably was just behind
2 or 3,
the goal.
I think.
Yeah. 3 puppies. He delivered back to the crowd, and then he was back. Yeah,
obviously.
Which would be fitting for Cholos, I believe. Isn't there a logo a dog?
Sure.
I'm pretty confident it's a bulldog.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident I could be wrong.
I'm glad you have once again committed yourself to something that you're not entirely certain about.
Get in there.
Perfect.
All right, so 2-0 to Red Bulls. We didn't talk about BWP. Can we at least just talk about the second goal?
Sure.
Which was the classic striker.
It was.
I'm going to reposition myself. I'm definitely going far post. Ha, fooled you.
Yep.
I nailed it just inside the near post.
But dribble into traffic a little bit so the keeper has to panic a bit more and think, I'm not sure where this is going to go, but if he's cut inside, it's probably going to go far post. And then he plays it back across himself to the near post.
Too much to say Messi-esque?
Yeah, yes, too much to say. But a very good goal.
Yes. You're not willing to go there with me?
No, I'm not. And then, but really the first one, I'm not trying to poo-poo it at all.
Yeah.
He's in the right position. Moyle, I think, plays it in. Royer plays it and Moyle heads it back. One of those. But BWP is there at the back post to roof that ball in the back of the net, and that's all you can ask from a striker.
Higuain-esque.
Sure. I'll give you that. It's pretty much the exact same.
But yeah, 2-0 Red Bulls, second leg. This is a big moment for Major League Soccer, especially if a Major League Soccer team with a lot of homegrown players manages to beat a Liga MX team over 2 legs.
That would be
That would be huge, right? That would be huge.
Yep.
So we'll have eyes on the CONCACAF Champions League this week. Go 90. Oh, nice try. But just get faster in the archives and we'll be on board 100%.
I was still able, even with the Go 90 issues, to see Joe Corona score a ridiculously good goal. That's really all I'll say about it, other than that we've retweeted it. You can find it on Twitter
for Club
or
America.
Anywhere else. It was a very good goal for Club America.
Should have been against FC Dallas, but instead it was against Tower.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Yeah, such is life.
All right, while we're talking CONCACAF, how about we talk my favourite topic?
Sure.
The CONCACAF Nations.
Is this actually your favourite topic? Are you saying that to be antagonistic because you know I'm not a huge fan?
50-50.
Okay.
I genuinely am happy that the CONCACAF Nations League is happening to mirror the UEFA Nations League. The very quick summary, because I know some people won't be aware, but also some people won't want the full description. Future FIFA-friendly dates are going to be replaced with the CONCACAF Nations League, where you'll be drawn into groups and you'll play for points, and then you'll get promoted and relegated. And at the very top, in the top league, you'll move on to like a 4-team championship to be the kings of CONCACAF, which is, I believe, what they should be calling it. We've finally got some news out of CONCACAF on how they're going to sort of organise this to begin with. The good news / bad news is that the US automatically qualifies for what they're calling League A, the top tier. This was announced this morning. But that means that when they do these sort of qualifying like stratification games in September, October, November of 2018 after the World Cup, US is not involved. Nope. Everybody who made the hex for 2018 World Cup qualifying, all 6 teams, automatically goes to League A, so they are exempt.
Mm-hmm. Hooray!
Hooray, yeah, I guess it means we'll have to just find something else to do for those 3 months, right? Maybe
Yes.
go play some friendlies. But then September of 2019, CONCACAF Nations League starts for real. So at least we have a final date of when this thing is going to happen. Mm-hmm. And this is not going to be a debate about the merits of the CONCACAF Nations League because we've done that before. I think I've spent 2 different podcasts convincing you that it's a good thing.
Trying to convince
you eventually agree, and then when it comes back up, we have to do it all over again.
I think I agree with you about the UEFA Nations League.
Okay.
CONCACAF, slightly less so.
All right.
I think your analogy of it being like a mirror of UEFA is sort of accurate in the sense that it's like...
I mean, the format is the same, right?
Yeah, it looks the same, but it's not quite the same, and things seem slightly odd, and they're kind of difficult to understand. A little bit like that.
Yeah, well, I think UEFA is more top-heavy with more better teams, essentially.
Oh, you
whereas
think?
CONCACAF is more bottom-heavy with lots of small
St.
island
Vincent
nations.
and the Grenadines would like a word with you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can show them some footage.
Yep.
But so, if you want to talk about this, the Nations League at the bottom end, I think is good for those smaller nations because they get more regular competitive games, which is the thing that this league was created essentially to solve that problem, right? It's not created for the US and Mexico and Costa Rica. It's created to grow the bottom end of CONCACAF, give them more games, so they're not knocked out of World Cup qualifying 2 years before the World Cup, and then they're kind of done for another 4 years, right?
No, I mean, that's totally true, and that is why it's a necessary change, is because you want to get those teams more games, more money, more minutes, so that they can theoretically at least develop and improve and become stronger competitors in CONCACAF.
Yep, that goes for Saint Martin and Saint Martin.
Exactly.
Which is the same island split in half.
It is just still hard for me to not... Like... It doesn't matter what I feel, first of all, because as we just said, the idea is that you're trying to get 41 nations to be like all the more excited about soccer and have more experience with it. It is just, on a personal note, it feels like a slightly less glorified, and that is saying something, Gold Cup. It feels like Gold Cup qualifying where you kind of know the teams that are going to be there, at least in the top final part of the competition. Maybe there'll be a few outliers. You kind of have an idea of the way things are going to go. Now, the USA, given... like recent performances, you never really know what they're going to do.
That's why I think
but
it's a
generally
good challenge
speaking,
for the US.
I think like you kind of know who's going to be in that top tier and who's going to stay in that top tier.
So let's fast forward 1 year and a bit. That's the noise for fast forward. So September 2019, the US will be in the League A, 12 teams, 4 groups of 3. So the US will be drawn into a group with 3 teams from the top 12 nations in CONCACAF, which is essentially what the hex teams from this past go around. Then you can add Jamaica, Haiti, probably Canada, probably El Salvador. So you can, it's going to be sort of some good teams, some teams that sort of the US should beat but can't take for granted. I put El Salvador as a team that we should beat but can't take for granted.
Well, I mean, if you're going to go by like the final hex standings, then those top 4 teams are going to be Mexico, Costa Rica, Panama, Honduras.
I think based on historical rankings, the US will still be in the top 4, right? So they'll be seeded in one of the 4 groups, right? Then basically you have to win that group. If you win that group, 4 teams win the group, then there's that final 4 championship that happens later on. And there will be silverware. There'll be a King of CONCACAF crown you can put on your head.
And how is that different than the Gold Cup?
I made up that last part. Because the Gold Cup is just one individual tournament that happens in the summer, whereas this will be played over the course of the international dates where normally you have friendlies. That's the answer.
I mean, yes, that is technically the answer. It just like we don't.
So it doesn't have to be different from the Gold Cup. The Gold Cup will still exist.
This is true. No, I mean that sarcastically. What I'm saying is like we don't even get that excited when the United States wins the Gold Cup. It's like, yay, okay, cool, great, and then we move on. And I guess I still have that feeling about this of like, yeah, okay, it'll be cool if the United States makes the final or they're in the final group or whatever. I'm still maybe it's because it's more than a year away or whatever. I'm just still having a hard time getting like, yeah, it's going to be exciting the way that you did talk me into UEFA being this really exciting change.
I think the basic thing for me, and again, this could be a long podcast if we just did exclusive this. The basic thing for me is that friendlies are good for experimentation. You can maybe judge this and that, but at the end of it, everyone can say it was only a friendly. CONCACAF Nations League, you can always say, there were points on the line, we were supposed to win. We don't get 6 subs, we get 3 subs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's something on the line, it makes the game more serious.
That actually is a really good point. That actually does factor into things for me. That, like, to not have those, oh, they're making sub number 4. The rest of this game does not matter anymore.
Because it kills the last 30 minutes of a game, right?
Yeah. Well, and also just
Perry Kitchen will not be getting his 1 minute at the end of the game.
But it is true. Like, there used to be that joke about Klinsmann that he is the best with subs 4 through 7. But it is true that once you make that 4 sub, it kind of stops being a real game because you don't have that option in an actual competition. So that does make a difference.
There we go. All right.
That's the big one.
It's the third time I've turned you on this.
I'm still not turned. I am less blah about it. But I'm definitely not like yay about it.
That is the CONCACAF Nations League slogan.
Is it less blah about it?
Less blah than you expect.
I think that's the third CONCACAF slogan we've come up with today.
We are available for hire for marketing consulting. Okay, so we'll move on to the Total Soccer Show Scouting Network.
Sounds good to me.
The first name I see is a very important name. I'll turn it over to you, Taylor, because I just want to listen to it and enjoy it.
Alexander King is very important, Daryl Grove. You are correct with that.
But only because...
You were referring to Tyler Adams then?
Yes. I'm sure Alexander King is very important in his own right.
Yeah. Alexander King scouting Tyler Adams, the 19-year-old American midfielder, mostly midfielder, for the New York Red Bulls. Tyler recently sat down with Herculez Gomez and gave his feelings on his favored position. He admitted feeling, quote-unquote, locked down at right back when prodded by Herc, making comments like, quote,
"Stop prodding
taking
me."
one for the team, end quote. He added that he would prefer playing in the center of the park because he believes that is where he can have the most influence on a match. As far as the U.S. national team goes, he referred to the new young core as the new generation and discussed the January camp and the cohesiveness of the youth national team that was involved in that team.
Worth noting, we didn't say this, in that CONCACAF Champions League match, Tyler Adams did play what looked like as part of a midfield, 2 defensive midfielders.
There we go.
Yeah. Next up, Stephen Kopech is scouting another American, Kenny Saif, the 24-year-old American midfielder on loan at Anderlecht from Ghent. Stephen says, another match, another assist for Kenny Saif. In Anderlecht's 3-2 away win over Zulte Waregem, Saif assisted Lukasz Teodosic's goal in the 32nd minute, which proved to be the eventual winner.
I was so happy you got this one instead of me. That team name and that player name.
What, you can't say Lukasz Teodosic?
No, I certainly can't. But you can, so well done. Michael Thompson scouting Chris Gloucester, the 17-year-old American left back for Hanover.
I saw this news today.
Chris Gloucester will sign for Hanover. After a previously unreported trial, Hanover will sign Chris Gloucester when he turns 18 in July. The academy director said that Gloucester impressed during his 2-week trial and should be able to start out with the U19 squad once he is officially eligible.
Can't you give a salute to the New York Red Bulls academy? Not only are they bringing through players like Tyler Adams, they're also bringing through players like Gloucester, who then just go overseas and play for a European team. So even they don't get the glory of them seeing them in the first team.
I'm not sure they love that. But
I'm not sure they do love that, but they still produced a player that is now going to be playing or going to be contracted to a Bundesliga team. Chris Gloucester is definitely a player to keep an eye on.
It's one of a few for them.
Yep. Up next, Michael Curry is scouting Haji Wright, the 19-year-old American forward on loan at Sandhausen from Schalke. Michael says Haji was a second-half sub in Sandhausen's match against Union Berlin, so that'd be second Bundesliga, but didn't play this past weekend due to flu-like symptoms. Man flu?
Get better soon.
Haji had the man flu.
Get better soon, Haji. I don't know what that is. Is that different than the flu?
I think man flu is basically just a cold, but you're kind of like, I'm really sick, I can't go to work.
I don't think either one of us has pulled that one. Yeah. Daniel Jones scouting Cody Cropper, 25-year-old American goalkeeper for the New England Revolution.
Didn't play this past weekend because Matt Turner played.
Cropper did not start for the New England Revolution in their season opener. Daniel thought this was due to injury, but Friedel's post-match comments indicated that Matt Turner would have started regardless of Cropper's fitness. Daniel adds that Turner should maybe be added to the scouting network, and also notes that he previously played for some team in Southern Virginia, but this past weekend was his professional debut.
Is there a team in Southern Virginia that maybe he plays for the Danville Dynamo? The Martinsville Marauders?
I'm assuming he was referring to the Richmond
Kickers.
The
team in Central Virginia.
And it was also a callback to referring to players making their professional debut having already played in the USL.
I see.
There you go. There you go. Good stuff, Daniel.
Patrick Keeler is scouting TSS
and
fave.
we're Central Virginia.
That's what I just said, yeah. Patrick Keeler is scouting TSS fave Anthony Robinson, the 20-year-old American left-back on loan at Bolton from Everton, and hopefully soon called up into the USA squad for Paraguay. Patrick says Anthony started from the bench in Tuesday's match for Bolton after playing the entire game on Saturday. Robinson has played every Bolton game but 2 since October 28th, totaling over 2,400 minutes in the Championship this season alone. He has not been as explosive as earlier in the year and is probably fatigued from Bolton's ongoing relegation battle.
I mean, he has been playing regularly, consistently.
Hey, it's what he wanted.
Mm-hmm. Mason Posner scouting Reece Oxford, the 19-year-old English defender for Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Yeah.
Since moving back to Gladbach in January, Oxford has started 3 straight games. He's also been linked with a move to Atletico Madrid, and Mason thinks that more playing time will mean an increase in his valuation. Supposedly, Atletico were looking at him for like £12 million, which doesn't seem like enough. Meanwhile, in Gladbach's most recent game, Oxford was blocked out during a corner kick, allowing his mark to score a wide-open header.
Does that mean screened?
I think so.
Yeah.
He also looked a bit slow getting back into defensive shape after moving up the pitch.
Okay, that's a good, honest assessment of Reece Oxford. Grayson Smith is scouting Lautaro. Let's go with that.
Easy for you to say. That's a Daryl Grove joke right there, folks.
Lautaro Martinez, the 20-year-old Argentine striker for Racing Club. Grayson says, since recovering from a metatarsal injury, Martinez has been going gangbusters in the Argentina Primera, notching 8 goals, 4 assists in 12 games. He's good on the dribble, got a clear predatory instinct in the box, scores with his head more often than expected for a 5'9" player. Despite his success, he has yet to be called up to the Argentina men's national team, so his chances of making the World Cup are slim at this point. Even so, a $33 million move to Inter is, quote, 90% complete, unquote, according to Racing Club president Victor Blanco.
And I think what you and I have talked about previously, just in general, is that when you say you're 99% sure of something, it means you're not sure of something. So 90% sure
it's a good way
means it hasn't happened yet.
Because surety can't be measured, really, can it?
No, you're either sure or you're not. It's an absolute.
It's binary.
Yeah.
It's binary.
Mm-hmm. Julie Nishimura Jensen scouting Alen Halilovic, the 21-year-old Croatian midfielder for Las Palmas. The Chinese Super League made Las Palmas an offer they could not refuse for Jonathan Vieira when they essentially drove a dump truck full of money up to his house, I would assume also to the Las Palmas headquarters.
Yeah.
Or a front office, whatever. This, along with an injury to Pedro Bigas, means that Paco Gémez has handed the keys to our friend Alen Halilovic.
It's Halilovic time.
Mm-hmm.
It's Alan o'clock.
He played full 90s in the draws against Leganes. That was 0-0. And Barcelona, a surprising 1-1, and was subbed out of this weekend's game versus Celta Vigo in the 84th minute. 5 minutes later, Celta scored the go-ahead goal to win 2-1. Coincidence? Julie thinks not.
No, Alan is the key.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Hansen is scouting Frank Kessié, the 21-year-old Ivorian midfielder for AC Milan. I've just realised that my joke only works for British people. Never mind. So Justin Hansen is scouting Frank Kessié, 21-year-old Ivorian midfielder for Milan. Kessié's work rate has been instrumental in Milan's recent run of form, and he seems to have become a key performer for Gennaro Gattuso. That said, last season, Kessié reportedly spoke fondly of both Manchester United and Chelsea, leading to some speculation that he wouldn't be opposed to a move if one were on offer.
I don't think Milan are going to let him go for much money because I think they want to keep him.
I saw recent highlights of him absolutely bossing the midfield.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It was up against
strong.
Someone really good, and he owned the midfield.
He seems like a player who has very much responded to Gattuso's brand of intensity.
Yes.
It seems like
I can do that.
Some players thrive off of that, and some players I think duck away and look for a move, and he seems to be like, let's be up for this one. Yeah. Andrew Eggleton scouting Ollie McBurney, the 21-year-old Scottish midfielder. That is the most... If it were McBurney, that's the only way that's a more Scottish name. Ollie McBurney. 21-year-old Scottish midfielder on loan at Barnsley from Swansea. I can't get over that. Unless his name were like Scotty McScotsman. I think that's the only way. After a loan move to Barnsley failed...
He's an engineer.
That's Welshie, by the way. I love Futurama. After making a loan move to Barnsley, after a loan move to Barnsley failed to materialize this summer, a loan move to Barnsley materialized this January.
Told you, it materialized.
There you go. Since making that move, it's good stuff.
It's like Andrew's in on the joke. He foresaw it.
Ollie, has scored 5 goals in 6 appearances and has played his way into contention for his first call-up to the senior Scottish national team.
Beam him up. Jim Brochard is scouting
Unicorns.
Jim Brochard is scouting Jonathan Klinsmann, the 20-year-old American goalkeeper for Hertha Berlin. Jim says Jonathan Klinsmann earned a clean sheet for Hertha Berlin Zwei in a 4-0 win over Oberlausitz Neugersdorf.
Again, well done.
That one was a bit slow and unsure.
You got the tough
right?
ones.
Yeah.
I did not do this on purpose. Sometimes I do it on purpose. Final report comes from Will Hurston, scouting Ryan Sessegnon, the 17-year-old English left winger for Fulham. Since Will's last report, Sess has played 6 games, scored 4 goals, and been featured in a 4-page profile in the April edition of 442, the world's best non-howler footy magazine, says Will.
Will George like that or will not like that?
I think he'll like it.
Yeah.
Hopefully. In that write-up, Sess talked about growing up idolizing Luke Shaw, a quote that made Will feel so old when he confirmed that Shaw is 22 and is probably in the scouting network himself. Fulham have now gone 14 games unbeaten in the league. Sess and January loan signing Alexander Mitrovic are scoring goals for fun, and the team is chasing down Cardiff and Wolves for automatic promotion.
They actually beat Wolves recently, which
go.
was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Growing up idolizing Luke Shaw.
That's terrifying. I don't know what to make of that.
It's more just that, like,
he hasn't been a pro for long enough to have been idolized.
It's more just that Leo Messi was out there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think he's referring to like left-sided attacking defenders would be my guess. Messi not known for
Marcelo
his defense.
was out there.
Yeah, but he's not English.
Okay.
And I think that's what he was looking for.
All right.
So that leaves Ashley Cole.
Yeah.
And I think I'd go Luke Shaw over Ashley Cole. Why not?
I would not. All right.
Yeah,
Well, thank you to everybody who sent
There
us
might be some bias in there on my part.
scouting reports. And thank you to everybody who has signed up recently. I am still doing scouting assignments. If you want to jump the queue or if you've been waiting too long, email me, Darryl@TotalSoccerShow.com. Let me know that you are waiting to hear who your player is. Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. Once again, we have a game to get to, but this time
it's good, right?
Less pressure. You can tell by the way we're slowly talking at the end of the show.
We don't have to leave here for like 25 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
We're good for tonight.
Slightly different than yesterday when it was like, okay, yeah, I'll talk to you soon, but I gotta go bye.
So we do a show every weekday. Do you think we're playing too much soccer? Because it feels like we're always rushing out to a soccer match.
I've thought about this, except that there was a time, I think we were playing roughly like for the same teams where I was playing 6 nights a week.
Yeah.
So that was probably too much.
I said get it while you can, right? Get it before your knees go.
Sure.
Get it while you can.
That was actually when my now wife, then girlfriend, and I started like dating more seriously. One of the rules was that I had to, I think it was actually take care of myself because I would
not play injured.
I would play on a sprained ankle all the time and then complain the next day. And she'd be like, no, you did that to yourself. Heal and then go play soccer.
And Mrs. Rockwell, not a doctor, just smart.
Yes. Yes.
Giving you good advice.
Of the two of us, I am not the smarter one. I fully admit that.
All right, Taylor, thank you. I've already done that. Thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy. Yes, you have.
Listeners, thank you for listening. We genuinely always appreciate it. We know that other soccer podcasts are available, so we love that you spend time with us. We will be back on Thursday with, we think, some listener questions, maybe some CONCACAF Champions League, maybe even some UEFA Europa League. It all depends on what happens in the next 24 hours. It's going to be a surprise show. Until then, we'll talk to you soon.